Welcome to our Tuesday tradition, I guess you'd call it, Acrepro Buy Sell. Thanks to the folks at acrepro.com. When it comes to land sales, it pays to have experts in your corner. By all means, that's why I have Tom Dienhart here. So Acrepro Midwest Farm Group are your local farmland specialists with decades of experience in Indiana agriculture. No one knows the market better, whether you're doing a 1031 exchange or simply buying and selling farmland. Your local Acrepro agent will walk the land with you and ensure that deal is done right. So visit acrepro.com or call Kyle Spray, 765-775-6502. All right, it is a busy day in Purdue sports, obviously, with the men's basketball game tonight against Tennessee. But it's also bucket week, and that is nothing to be taken lightly if you're Purdue, even if there are two teams with 3-8 records, which I guess has happened. We looked that up twice in the last 15 years, or I guess you include this year, it'd be 16. But 2008, 2014, Purdue won in 2008, Joe Tiller's last game, and also Billy Lynch's last game for IU as he got shown the door after that game. But 2014, Indiana beats Purdue. In this, I believe that game was at IU as well, because they Purdue played back-to-back games in Bloomington because of the scheduling quirk. All right, Mr. Dienhart, some interesting numbers certainly, and this tends to be a numbers-related show. Purdue rushed for 300 yards for the first time in back-to-back Big Ten games since 1968, and back-to-back Big Ten games in consecutive weeks. Maybe ever. Now, 68, they did it, against Iowa. Then they played Wake Forest, and then they played Illinois. This was, again, back-to-back games. I'm not asking you. And then, of course, they came close in 2002 in terms of back-to-back consecutive week Big Ten games back in the day of Joe Tiller and that 2002 team. Michigan State and Indiana, though, they were 5 yards short in that 34-10 win over Indiana in 2002. Back in the days of Jerry DiNardo. How can you beat that? So, Tom, lots to think about. Purdue's run game has been really good. Indiana has been decent enough against the run, but so kind of was Minnesota and Northwestern, and Purdue ran through them. I'm going to say buying or selling 200-plus yards. Are you going to buy that?
Oh, I'm buying that, Alan Karpick. With the way these guys are running the ball, like you said, I never would have believed they would have rushed for 300 yards in one game this year, let alone back-to-back games, let alone back-to-back Big Ten games. So here we are. That feat is accomplished. Here comes Indiana. Just looking at the stats, Indiana's got the 13th worst rush defense in the Big Ten. They're allowing 153 yards rushing per game. So there you go. Not a real stout defense against the run. And conversely, like we know, Alan, the Boilermakers are running the ball like they're the 1995 Nebraska Cornhuskers. And they're fourth in the Big Ten in rushing, Alan.
Unbelievable.
68 yards again. I look up the last time they averaged over 160 yards rushing per game in a season was 2012. The leading rusher was Akeem Shavers.
Yeah.
But again, I couldn't figure out or look up when the last time they ranked as high as fourth in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Which is, again, that's for Purdue. Like I said, wow, those are high figures for a school that traditionally passes the football. So, yeah, just again, a defense, an IU that's not very good, an offense for Purdue that can run the ball. You add it all up, two good backs. Purdue's at home, angry, wants to keep the bucket. Without a doubt, I think Purdue's going to rush for over 200 yards. The real question will be, can they hit 300 again?
Yeah, 1995 maybe with Allstott and Edwin Watson. I don't know. I mean, you'd have to wonder about those numbers, but in terms of that team rushing yardage that would be about the only time I can think of in terms of that. All right, it has been one of those strange anomalies, because even when you have Ryan Brown run for 85 yards in his collegiate debut, which I can remember Brandon Kirsch having a big day against Iowa in a game that Purdue lost the year that Iowa, again, 2002, went on to win the Big Ten in a crazy fashion by beating Purdue, too. Daryl Clark.
Dallas Clark.
Dallas Clark, not Daryl Clark. Daryl Clark was a bad baseball player. Dallas Clark, 95-yard touchdown, crazy loss in that game.
Banks,
but Kirsch had a huge day that day running it. Ryan Brown's numbers were comparable to that one, and that was Kearse's debut as a true no, he was not a true freshman. He was actually a redshirt freshman that year, as a matter of fact. So Ryan Brown really unique numbers on that 85 yards. All right. It is going to be I think, a decent day on Saturday. Not going to be quite as cold as they talked about. Maybe high 30s, low 40s. Purdue has had 61,000 in the last time the IU came to town. Of course, Purdue was playing for a bowl bid and won that game. In 2019, the crowd was about 55,000 under Jeff Brown, 52,017. Are you buying it's going to be closer to the numbers at 2019 or 2021? In other words, closer to 55.3 or closer to 61.3 on Saturday? Purdue sold a lot of season tickets this year, and that's really buoyed those ticket numbers.
I think 55.3. I think it'll be muted a little bit. I think there's some fatigue. I'm going to sense there's fatigue that's set in with the football fans, some disappointment. The weather, again, not terrible weather, but still chilly, Alan. You got to really be dedicated to come out and sit in high 30-degree weather to watch a 3-8 football team play. And the students are gone. Yeah,
big factor.
Everybody's jacked about this basketball team. They're not going to be playing, obviously, during that day, but I think a lot of fans' focus has shifted to hoops. And again, the football fan of Purdue, though, I always think is an underrated creature, Alan.
Yeah.
You always think basketball when you think of Purdue, but you and I have been around here a long time, and we know this fan base turns out for football. Heck, they did this year, right?
Yeah, it's been impressive. It really
really impressive. So again, there's more football power here than maybe outsiders realize. But again, under these circumstances, I think it's gonna, I guess, heads toward that 55,000 number if I were to make a guess.
Coach Ryan Walters has talked about, been really, and again, it's natural for coaches to say these things, but has talked about that fan following this year, and it has been impressive. I really was most impressed really at Minnesota, that you're within 2,000 of a sellout in a game where the season was heading in the wrong direction at that point after a rough October, and yet they got treated to a good game, and that was a big deal also. But yes, it's been interesting and impressive. The fan base as a following. All right. Now, there also another thing, not that this is the whole deal, because I guess you could sit there at the game and watch Ohio State, Michigan if you really wanted to on your phone. But Michigan and Ohio State playing at the same time, going head to head, that is such a monumental game. So I'm going to go to that subject. We're going to skip around a little bit. But who are you buying in that one? Michigan, Ohio State in the big house. He gets that old media mania pick, and you got.
I think I'm going to Ohio State. I think that's what I submitted. Ohio State. I mean, I'm not even sure what the line is. I'm sure the Buckeyes.
3 point. I think 3 Michigan.
Yeah, they're probably getting a few points. I think the Buckeyes are just going to win. I just think I have some questions about Michigan's offense. We saw some of it last week, how J.J. McCarthy played. Wasn't that sharp at Maryland? And I just haven't faced a lot of adversity against a lot of very tough competition. I think Ohio State's a little bit more battle-tested. I think Ohio State has more explosiveness on offense, Allen, especially in that receiving core with Marvin Harrison Jr., Travion Henderson. They got running backs every bit as good as Michigan's running backs.
Henderson's just starting to hit stride.
He's heating up. And the quarterback, maybe the quarterback's a push. Defensively, I think, everybody allows Michigan's defense, but Ohio State's is very good too. These teams are very similar, but I do think the Buckeyes have that edge of having a little bit more explosive ability, big play ability on offense. If they can get a lead, Allen, I don't think Michigan can play catch up. I think Ohio State can play catch up. I don't think Michigan can play catch up. You factor in, I know Michigan says us against the world, where the Buckeyes are going to feel like it's us against the world up there in Ann Arbor at high noon. It's going to be crazy. And they've lost 2 in a row, too. They're hungry.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, too.
And no Harbaugh. And then the Harbaugh factor, maybe it's overrated, the fact he's not on the sideline, but this will be the 3rd game in a row. And I think it's all going to catch up. And I think the Buckeyes find a way to win this thing.
Well, I do think the Harbaugh factor can be a factor in a close game or when things aren't going right. I just think players like that stability on the sideline. Not that they don't have it. But I'm with you. I think that could be a factor. I think Ohio State is angry. I think that Ohio State is pretty good. And
Yes.
and Marvin Harrison would like to flex his muscles a little bit as well. I think they'll get it done too. I'm gonna buy Ohio State in that one. Okay, Jacob Thieneman had another productive game. It seems like it's been an entire season of that. And I said Jacob Thieneman. I meant Dylan Thieneman, and he has been unbelievably good in terms of probably pretty much I don't know if he's a shoo-in for freshman Big Ten Player of the Year, but he's going to be in the top 2 or 3. But will he make? Are you buying or selling? He'll make one of the first 2 teams. I mean, when you have 14 teams in the league, that's no easy deal anymore. And next year, 18, when you make first or second team All Big Ten, do you think he makes it?
I don't think he's first or second team, Alan. I think he'll be honorable mention by both coaches and the media. I just don't think. It's really, I know his true freshman season has been outstanding in a lot of different ways, but I don't know. I guess I just don't think he's going to have enough oomph to be first or second team. Maybe he gets second team from either the coaches or the media. Certainly not first team though. But again, at least honorable mention consensus. I think playing on such a team that struggled is going to really hurt him. Yeah. Even though I don't think that should really always matter, but it does. We know it does. Thieneman's, I guess, coming up on some interesting records. I guess he only needs one more solo tackle to tie Rod Whitson for the most by a freshman in Purdue history. Yeah. So that's some illustrious company there. When you and I both saw Rod Whitson play a lot in West Lafayette, I'll never forget watching him run hurdles inside Lambert Fieldhouse once and knocking down every hurdle and still winning the Big Ten Indoor. Big Ten Indoors in Lambert Fieldhouse, Alan. Great
theater in those days, wasn't
it? But anyway, I digress. No, he's not going to, unfortunately. But again, man, 3 more years of this kid that everybody raves about. Just the maturity, Al, and the work ethic. It's crazy. You and I have been around, and we've been in sports as kids in high school, and those to have upperclassmen talk about a freshman like this. I remember always being a freshman and being scared of the older kids.
Yeah.
And they rave about this kid, how he sets the example, Alan.
Yeah.
As an 18-year-old true freshman, Snoozy Kane. I hear Snoozy Kane talk about this guy. So that tells you the world about what kind of player and person Dylan Thieneman is. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this guy these next few years too.
Yeah, without a doubt. Ryan Walters has talked at length about his leadership. His work, just his daily work ethic has been pretty much amazing. When you're impressing the head coach, who's a defensive guy in year one, that's pretty darn impressive.
Great family. This is a great family. If you ever met his mom and dad, and about Jacob and Brennan, and man, I tell you what, they are one of those families you look at from afar. They seem like they have it all.
Yeah,
they seem like they're all good looking. They're all smart. They're all successful. And just one of those kind of families. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yep, and he has been absolutely outstanding. I'm with you. I mean, I think it's hard for him to make first or second team, but I think he'll be close. He may make freshman All-American.
He'll do that for sure. There's no doubt about that.
And that's a heck of an accomplishment. And I think that part of it will be impressive, to say the least. Is impressive, I should say, in terms of that. All right, we already know Iowa will represent the West, and you said there's up to 7 league teams that could make bowls, but Illinois is a favorite over Northwestern. If it wins, it will become bowl eligible. Now they could make it at 5 wins, and of course Nebraska plays Iowa, and I believe they are a favorite at home on that Black Friday game.
Mm-hmm.
You buying that both those teams win and make bowls?
There's one more out. Minnesota can get bowl eligible too.
That's right. Minnesota's got to beat Wisconsin, right? But they are
the Badgers. So
they are an underdog at home.
They're a home underdog to Wisconsin.
I believe that's correct. I need to make sure I have that right.
I think all of it. Yes, there's no doubt all 3 can win. That'd be 6 of the 7 teams. That's incredible to think about.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's good or it just speaks to the mediocrity that we've seen all year in the Big Ten, specifically the Big Ten West. Some people don't even think it's mediocrity, Alan. They just think it's bad football.
Yeah.
At least offensively, it's been awfully hard to watch all year. Not to get off on a tangent again, but look at the quarterbacks in that conference. Look at the quarterbacks in that division, Alan. Outside of Hudson Card looks like Tom Brady compared to these other quarterbacks in the Big Ten West. And, J.J. McCarthy, Kyle McCord at Ohio State, and then Tagovailoa in Maryland. Three pretty good quarterbacks. And then after that, Alan, it's a real, and then I think Hudson Card's probably the fourth best. After that, Penn State kid Drew Allar, he's not been that good, and
he started out good, but boy, he hasn't been as good down the stretch.
Yeah, he's just been he's a product of hype. It seems like Penn State quarterback. Who was the guy a few years ago they were raving about? Christian Hackenberg. I mean, he was supposed to be like he was going to be Dan Marino, and they were saying the same thing about Allar. But anyway, I digress again. The offenses in the Big Ten have struggled. Big Ten West, Allen, again, 6 or 7 teams. I wonder if that's happened in the history of the divisional play in the Big Ten. But hats off to those guys, right? They find a way. Illinois looked terrible at times, Allen.
Oh.
And they have a chance to get bowl eligible. Nebraska's started 3 different quarterbacks this year. They have a chance to get bowl eligible. And here's Minnesota. We saw how awful they were not that long ago. And they got a chance, too. And speaking of bowl eligibility, did you realize last week Virginia Tech got bowl eligible?
Yeah.
That team looked like it was going nowhere back in September when we were in Blacksburg. So, yeah, you always give those teams credit for staying the course. And, heck, if they can find a way to get to 6 wins and play in a bowl, that's great.
Yeah, and by the way, Minnesota is a 2-point underdog to Wisconsin. At least
home.
Open that way about that at that home. They do host the Badgers 3:30.
What about Illinois? Illinois Northwestern is in Champaign. I got to think Illinois given a couple points there.
Yeah, and so it could line up and be that way. You could make 6 that would get it.
6 or 7 teams.
Minnesota would be the only one that would have to pull and all of them would be mild upsets anyway. Though actually Nebraska and like I said, Illinois I believe are favorites in those games, and it's been crazy though of how some of these games have played out and it's been hard to predict certainly this year in terms of maybe it's been mediocrity, probably so, but still been hard to
watch. It's hard to watch. I mean, some of these offenses, my God.
Yeah, no doubt, and that part is that is an important thing. All right, we're not going to do a buy sell on Hudson Card and Nick Scorton. We expect them both to play.
Mm-hmm.
From that standpoint, but just talk about that need. The fact that Jenkins and Scorton have been really as good a bookend rush ends or whatever position you want to call them that Purdue's had in quite a while, and putting that into a little bit of context. These guys have been really special in terms of the kind of year they've had, and bucket games tend to bring out. I can remember Rob Ninkovich having 4 sacks in both the 2004 and 2005 game. Probably had a lot to do with him getting a better look in the NFL and having a very good, very established NFL career. But the bucket game, sometimes some guys really come up big. What do you see from those guys in this game? Do you think I'll give that 3 sacks total between them? Do you think they get that number? That's a lot, but will they get that on Saturday?
I know I talked to a writer who covers Indiana, Dylan Sen.
Yeah.
He said the Indiana offensive line has gotten better as the season's gone on, but I think they have a chance. I'm going to buy the fact that they can combine for 3 sacks. Right now, looking at this Big Ten sack leaders coming in Saturday, Scorton is still number 1 in the conference.
Great.
He's got 8 sacks, and Kyron Jenkins is number 2 with 7.5. When was the last time Purdue had the top 2 sackers in the Big Ten? Outside linebackers, I vote for a lot of trophies, Alan. One of them is the Hendricks Trophy, and that goes to the best defensive end in the country. And these guys aren't among that, obviously, because they're outside linebackers, even though they're really more like defensive ends.
Yeah.
But again, they're special guys. I like to call them empty the bucket guys. Those guys who every play they play like it's their last play on earth. And you combine that type of effort and intensity with talent, strength, and size, and you got 2 special players. Looking at TFLs, Alan, Kyron Jenkins is number 2 in the Big Ten in TFLs with 14. Scorton is number 4 with 13. Of course, we all know Scorton has played one less game. So special guys, Alan, and they both have eligibility. Jenkins is a senior, but he has another year. Scorton's a true sophomore. A big question is going to be, Alan, will these guys be Boilermakers next year too? I don't want to get off on a tangent there, but two special guys, Purdue would love to have back to be linchpins of their defense next year.
Yeah, and all I know is that Ryan Walters would like to buy that one if both those guys will be back. Buying is a funny term just because of the wonderful world of NIL. Though we had interesting that Ryan Walters has talked on Monday about being excited about Purdue's NIL fortunes, and some things have worked out with the Boilermakers.
Better resources.
Sounds like it. So that's a good thing. But you have that. That would be a early holiday gift for Ryan Walters and Kevin Kane, if both those guys who come. That'll give you a good foundation to start to build from. Mm-hmm. And they've done some good. I mean, I know their numbers are poor, or not where they want to be from a ranking standpoint in the league, but they have done some good things, and obviously defensively at times. And you would think that will continue to improve if you're under Ryan Walters' watch. So
okay, I got this. May not be a buy sell, but I always like your perspective. Give me Alan Karpick's best ever bucket game experience.
Wow, that's a good one. The ones in Ross-Ade, I do remember. 86 would be one. Just a strange, crazy. Purdue comes out. The players supposedly purchased the gold jerseys. First time Purdue worn gold jerseys since the 30s or whatever. They come out. Leon Burton had already been fired. Rod Woodson wasn't happy about it. Which I understand. And Jeff George wasn't happy about it, but he played at quarterback that day. And Rod Woodson plays, 71 out of 88 plays, or 75, goes both ways, rushes for 93 yards. And I think he recovered a fumble as well. But he had a bunch of tackles. He was just unbelievable. And Indiana still had the game won. And they had an it looked like a relatively easy field goal. It was Pete Stoyanovich, a great kicker.
I think it was Scott Bennell.
Was it?
I think
no, that was in '89.
Okay, maybe you're right.
A short field goal. I think it was Stoyanovich, but Scott Schultz gets in, races to the line, and from Las Vegas, Nevada, comes in. I think he was from Vegas. Blocks that kick. Purdue wins that game in '89. That would be probably 1B.
Yeah.
A very bad Purdue team. 2-8 goes into that game, I believe they were. And of course, Anthony Thompson. Purdue fans know this story. Some Purdue football fans know this by heart. Purdue holds him for under 100 yards. He doesn't win the Heisman Trophy. He was probably would have been the favorite. They don't go to a bowl. And yes, I think it was Scott Bennell misses a 26-yard field goal, and Purdue wins that game. Unbelievably, Eric Hunter company led Purdue to that one. And of course, how could you get better from the 2000 game if you're Purdue going to the Rose Bowl? Certainly, it's hard to beat in terms of that. But in terms of great competitive games, there have been some good ones, and there have been some good ones in Ross-Ade Stadium. There haven't been all that many. There was the overtime game a few years ago, but there haven't been all that many close games, it seems, between Purdue and Indiana in West Lafayette. But certainly
the 2001 game in a rainstorm at Bloomington, where Purdue could not score. It was like 14-7 or something, a real close game.
13-7, and Purdue could not make a yard. And that was Joe. I remember that being the cover of Gold and Black when Montrell Lowe, who never really got to play much again. He did play a little bit, fumbled a couple of times his senior year, and kind of fell out of favor. But Purdue could not get a yard in that game. Kyle Orton throws the ball 63 times in a first half rainstorm that I was not there, but I heard it was as bad a rain as anybody had ever seen in a college football game. And then, of course, Indiana wins that game. And Cam Cameron, right?
I would have still been Cam,
and they win that game, but I think he still lost his job. So, as I recall, but that was a bitter loss for Joe Tiller and company. They lost 2 games in Bloomington, of course, that, and then the Terry Hepner game, 2007, when the Hoosiers kicked the last-minute second field goal to beat Purdue, in also a very bitter loss for Joe Tiller and company. And he only lost a couple of them. but those were ones that he lost to Indiana that did not sit well with the head football coach. So
Jeff Brom had to beat him twice to get bowl eligible his first 2 years, right?
Right. Those are, both teams coming in 6 and 6.
Last year, Purdue had to win in Bloomington to go to the Big Ten title game. That was a nice win too. And I always remember too, it didn't mean anything, but the game in 1992 over here, Alan.
Yeah, Jimmy Young.
Yeah, when Trent Green was the quarterback for the Hoosiers. Yeah, and Jimmy Young had that late interception. And that was an exciting game. It capped just a meaningless season, Jim Colletto's second season. But it was a fun way to end the year back there in 92. But I remember watching that white running back, 1994, went for about 300 yards.
Harkrader, right?
No, I'll think of his name, but he was from Southern Indiana, but he ran wild on him, and it was just depressing.
I say Harkrader was in the 80s, and
depressing. But yeah, again, I remember him rolling IU down in 97 down there in Bloomington. That was a fun one, and I was at the game in 99 in Bloomington where they won too. So some good memories, mostly good.
That took the game in 99, took a punt return by Vinny Sutherland in the fourth quarter for Purdue to get the job done. And that was the 94 game. The 94 season for Purdue started off with some promise. They were actually 4-1-1 at one time.
Yeah.
And of course, that was when Jim Coletto had a propensity for tying football games, as I recall, and did not sit well with the Purdue fan base. That was for sure. But, I do think that you look at those games, there can be some surprising results. And that's the old throw out the records deal. And that is true. But that was a game, and it was Smith. What was
Alex Smith.
Alex Smith, 31 rushes, 257 yards.
I could still see him run up down the field, Al. I feel like I might win though.
Purdue was left with Brian Gale at quarterback that game. So many injuries. Rick Tresker was out the year. Billy Dicken quarterbacked also in that game as I believe a true freshman. And Dicken got hurt in that game, but it was turnovers. I also remember the 96 game between two lame duck coaches.
Oh, yeah.
Jim Coletto, Bill Mallory. Yeah. Purdue just, 2 weeks earlier had beaten Michigan, and Coletto supposedly went in and asked for his job back. I don't know if that's really, both Morgan Burke no longer can vouch for that, but sadly, but that was one of the worst games I ever saw that Indiana came in and just beat the heck out of it.
I got one out in 1988 was a terrible game over here against Purdue.
52-7.
I was at that game. That was brutal, man. Woof.
Purdue's lone touchdown was on a fake punt.
What's it? Oh my God.
Bernie Schromeyer, I think, either threw it or I can't remember, but they scored on a fake punt, and those were some dark days. And certainly I can remember also Danny Etling and Daryl Hazel. I'll talk about forgettable times in 2013, and Etling throws for like almost 500 yards, but Purdue gets beat badly, like 56-35 there. Those are ones that Purdue fans don't hold. Maybe the other one that was crazy, just because of the circumstances, 2012. It was pretty much a foregone conclusion that Danny Hope was not going to be retained, even though Danny didn't seem to know it. Matt Light and company were all there. They had a big kind of reunion thing. Purdue beat the heck out of won their last three games. Remember, they beat Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana. Go to a bowl game, Danny Hope beats Indiana, gets bowl eligible, and the next day is shown the door. And then of course Purdue goes to hires Daryl Hazel and goes to the Heart of Dallas Bowl, which was a performance very similar to last year's performance. We are digressing, but the point is the bucket game
deep in the weeds
can be very interesting, and at least in the state of Indiana, it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, we love talking about the good and the bad. I'm at that age now where I probably spent too much time looking backwards, Alan.
Well, but there's some interesting times. I mean, there were just some really
a lot of fun
crazy games and things that you just didn't expect. And, I'm going to throw two more out there. 2008, Joe Tiller's last game, and Curtis Painter throws for like 500 and some yards, and Purdue puts 62 on Indiana in Joe's last game. And that was impressive, as was when I think they put 63 on them and they put 63 on them in 2008 or 63 on them in 2004. Kyle Ortiz and Taylor Stubblefield's last game in Ross-Ade Stadium. There were some monumental beatdowns there. So we'll by the time we get done with this, we'll mention every game. But no, it's a lot of fun, and it is a game that you never know exactly what you're going to see when you get there. So it'll be fun to see.
I think Purdue's about a 2.5-point favorite. It's gone down a little bit, open at 3. So it ought to be fun. I know most of America doesn't care, but I care.
Yeah,
and I'm sure a lot of the people watching this obviously care too. So it means a lot to these Purdue fans.
Yeah, in the state of Indiana, it's a big deal, and yes, we understand basketball's taking center stage, and understandably so. But it is still part of the deal. So, all right, Tom, we're going to bring this to a close. I want to thank Kyle Spray and the good folks at Acrepro.com. We always appreciate them and all that they do for us. You can also call Kyle if you want to do a deal, 765-775-6502. They will promise to walk the land with you, and they'll promise to do it right. So the end of our regular season, we'll probably do one more of these either sometime in the next couple of weeks. But we appreciate Acrepro's sponsorship of this throughout the year. So, and you know what? We always say it's going to be 15 minutes. It ends up being a lot longer, but we have some fun doing it. All right. Have a great rest of your day, Tom. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. And we'll see you next time on Acrepro Buy Sell.